Tell me about a time when you had to be flexible or adaptable at work.
I believe I am a flexible person and I will always be there to help out my employer. To give you an example of that, I can remember a few months ago in my previous role when our company website crashed late on a Friday afternoon. Now, we had a sale planned on the website that was going to start at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. Now, my manager came into the office and he asked for a volunteer to stay behind late after work to help get the website back up and running. So I immediately put my hand up. I said I was prepared to cancel my plans for that evening because I knew how important it was to get the website back up and running. So I then started to try and find a web developer to get the website back up and running quickly. So I contacted lots of local companies. Unfortunately, none of them were available because it was late on a Friday afternoon. So I then decided to use my initiative. So I looked online for a freelance web developer, and I ended up using the website upwork.com. I found a web developer within an hour of searching. I gave him a brief, and then he spent the next 2 hours sorting out the problem, and he managed to get the website back up and running by 6 p.m. So I stayed behind an hour late after work to resolve this issue, and thankfully the website was back up and running, and we managed to have a successful sale that started on 9 a.m. Saturday morning. So I am flexible and I am adaptable. If you ever need me to do anything that is out of my usual remit, I'll be the first person to put my hands up.
Wow, that was a brilliant answer to that difficult interview question. Tell me about a time when you were flexible at work. Now, before I give you the exact script to use when answering this interview question, here are some really important tips. Now, obviously that question was, tell me about a time when you were flexible at work. But interviewers are asking different varieties of interview questions that assess your ability to be flexible and adaptable. Here are some more. Tell me about a time when you had to adapt your style of communication. That's a common interview question. Here's another one. Tell me about a time you adapted to an unfamiliar situation, and also tell us about a time when you had to adapt your own style to work effectively with others in a team. So there's 4 really difficult interview questions. I am going to give you the answers to all 4 questions, so make sure you stay tuned. But let me first of all give you 3 really important tips when answering interview questions that assess your ability to be flexible and adaptable at work. And tip number 1 is, in your answers to these questions, it is essential you show determination, resilience, and resourcefulness. And in the answers that are coming very soon, I will explain how to do that. Tip number 2, give answers that show you are a team player and that you always put the needs of the team first. That's very important. And finally, tip number 3, before we come on to the answers, show you are willing to go above and beyond what is normally required. And an example of that was in the answer that I gave right at the start of this video, where I said I stayed behind late after work to help out the organisation. So here are the 4 example answers to those questions. Let me just quickly recap them. Tell me about a time when you were flexible at work. Tell me about a time when you had to adapt your style of communication. Tell me about a time you adapted to an unfamiliar situation. And tell us about a time when you had to adapt your own style to work effectively with others in a team. So let's start working through them. The first question, tell me about a time when you were flexible at work. Here's the example answer I gave right at the start of the video. Here we go. Tell me about a time when you were flexible at work. It was late on a Friday afternoon and our company website crashed. Now, this was an unfortunate incident because we had an online sale that was due to start at 9 a.m. Saturday morning. Now, my manager came into the office to ask for a volunteer to stay behind late after work to help get the website back up and running. I immediately volunteered. Now, I started off by calling around local IT companies, but none were available to help. I then switched my attention to online companies, and I eventually managed to find a web developer via the website upwork.com who I commissioned to fix the website for us. Now, by the time 7 p.m. came that evening, the website was fully back up and running in time for the sale that was due to start at 9 a.m. the following morning. That's a great answer because it shows you are prepared to go above and beyond what is normally required at work. So you are showing your ability to be flexible and adaptable. Let's have a look at the next question and answer. So the question is, tell me about a time when you had to adapt your style of communication. Here's a brilliant example answer to help you. Here we go. I was speaking to an elderly customer on the telephone who wanted to order some goods online. Now, this was the first time they had ever ordered anything online, and I could detect they were nervous and unsure. So I started off by reassuring them that I would take the time to help and advise them. I asked them simple questions to find out what they wanted to order, and once I had established their needs, I began explaining how the online payment system we used was safe and secure. Now, whilst communicating with them, I slowed down, I gave them time to ask questions, and I used jargon-free language that they could understand. Now, although the call took much longer than normal, it was important I took my time to help the customer complete their order by using a style of communication that was applicable to their needs. So that's another great answer. Let's now take a look at the next question. Tell me about a time you adapted to an unfamiliar situation. Here we go. My supervisor asked for a volunteer to work in a different department within the company to cover someone who had gone off sick at short notice. Now, I was unfamiliar with how the team operated, but I agreed to go across and help the team in their time of need. Now, the team leader gave me a brief of what needed to be done, and my task was to process customer orders using a software system that I was unfamiliar with. Now, to quickly learn how to use the system, I read the operating manual and I asked another more experienced team member for some tips on how to process the orders quickly and accurately. Now, the first couple of days in the role was a steep learning curve, but I persevered and I adapted, and I managed to do a great job for the team whilst their work colleague was off sick. So that's a brilliant answer to that question. Tell me about a time you adapted to an unfamiliar situation. Here's the next one. Tell us about a time when you had to adapt your own style to work effectively with others in a team. So this is a difficult question to answer, but here's an example answer. Here we go. I was seconded to another team within the company for a 4-week period to help them complete a difficult and challenging project. Now, I am someone who naturally works very quickly, and I like to get tasks done as fast as possible so I can then move on to the next one. However, this new team I was a part of worked much slower, and they were more methodical in their approach to completing tasks. And to be honest, I found this quite frustrating at first, but I also saw it as an opportunity for me to learn a new style of working. So I embraced the change by watching and learning how the team members approached each task and what they did to complete things to a high standard. Now, I learnt a lot during my time with the team because not only was this method of task completion more precise, but their reputation for delivering very high quality projects was second to none. And at the end of my secondment to the team, I had learnt a new way of approaching tasks, which then helped me in my usual role. That's another great example that shows you are someone who is flexible and adaptable, so you can turn your hand to any situation. Now, the next thing to do is please click that link at the top of this video and head over to my other video right here on YouTube, which is my full mock interview. I actually go through a full mock interview and I answer 12 questions and I land the job. So it's a perfect example of how to undertake a job interview. Make sure you check that video out. Then, if you would like my full set of 21 great answers to tough interview questions, click that link in the top right hand corner of the video and it will take you through to my website, passmyinterview.com, and you can download my interview guide in PDF format. It contains 21 brilliant answers to tough interview questions. It's a brilliant resource for helping you to pass your interview. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We have about 500,000 subscribers now, and lots of you are passing your interviews as a result of the content, so I don't want you to miss out. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I've put my LinkedIn link in the description below the video, and please Don't forget just to give the video a like, because that tells me you find the content useful. If you have any questions, put them in the comments section below the video. But other than that, have a brilliant day, and I wish you all the best for passing your interview. Thank you for watching.